Welcome to another episode of the brand called You, a video and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Today, I'm delighted to welcome a very exciting advertising professional from across the border, Pakistan, Umair Kazi. Umair, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ashutosh. Nice to be here.
Thank you. Umair is the founder of Ishtehari, which a lot of us in India will understand what is Ishtehar advertising. Uh, he works with major brands like Unilever, Facebook, Castrol, Abbott, and Johns Hopkins. So, Umair, tell me, what would you say are three key milestones in your life or your career?
If you would have asked me this question maybe 5, 6 years ago, I would have
Hmm.
had a different answer because I identified with my work first and then everything else. But lately now, when I was thinking about this, I think the first milestone, top of my list, is having a child
Hmm.
because I felt like, I mean, it's something that completely changes your perspective on what you need to achieve, what you need to put out into the world, and what the continuity for that is.
Correct.
And if our life is a series of projects, I think having a child is perhaps the most meaningful one that you can put up there, right?
Absolutely.
So that's at the top of my list. And my son is 6 years old now,
Mm.
and he's homeschooled, and it's just been a journey. And
Fantastic.
then second, again, so I pushed it down the entrepreneur part. So I I I only worked for a year and a half, perhaps 2 years before, for the man, before
Hmm.
starting my own business. And somehow that bug is so deeply ingrained in me that it's become a part of my identity. And
Hmm.
I think that's when I changed to be something else, and haven't been able to change back into anything else now.
Hmm.
And I think the third milestone, if I were to be honest, it's the first time that I actually traveled out of my own comfort zone, out of my own
Hmm.
country,
Hmm.
and that happened to be a trip to India in 2008. By the
Wow.
way, I wasn't a very well traveled person before that because of
Hmm.
circumstance and all.
Sure.
But the first time that I traveled, it really opened up the horizons, and it got me addicted to this sort of thing. And
Hmm.
after that, this last year has just been, it's just been mind wrecking, because usually myself and my family, we make it a point to travel at least once every 5, 6 months,
Hmm.
because we feel like that gives us a perspective on our life. And
Correct.
just we haven't been able to do that.
I
But
know.
at least this weekend, I've planned to sneak in a trip. So I'm really looking forward to that. But
Fantastic.
these three seem to be at
Fantastic.
the
You know,
top
there
of
was such
my.
such amazing milestone. So I must add to your first milestone, where you said having a child is an important thing. I'm at a stage where I'm trying to persuade both my sons to get us a grandchild, but they're not yet
Oh.
listening. So that will be a big milestone for me as well. If they
Yeah,
can
just
listen.
it's just that before you've had a child,
I
the
know.
same thing happened. My grandparent, no, Nile, my son's grandparents, my
Hmm.
parents
Hmm.
kept saying the same thing. When will we have, when
I
we hear
know.
the little pitter patter feet, we're like, no way, pagal ho gaye. इस जमाने में ऐसी चीजें नहीं पूछते.
I know.
But it's when it
Very
happens, you're
nice.
like, wow, damn.
I know. I know. Well, culturally, we're all the same, no? So, Umair, let's
True
now
that.
talk about your Ishtehari. Tell me about this venture.
Okay, so first of all, so Ishtehar, you picked it right. So Ishtehari can be attributed to the word Ishtehar, which means
Correct.
in Hindi or in Urdu, it means advertisement.
Right.
But there's another colloquial meaning to it as well, which we lean towards, right?
Hmm.
That's Ishtehari. So it's usually added as Ishtehari Mujrim, right?
Hmm.
Ishtehari are those people who have literally have wanted ads for them,
I
right?
see.
So उनकी तस्वीर कहीं लगी होती है that this
Uh-huh.
person is wanted for breaking so and so law.
Mm.
And that's the meaning that we really gravitate towards, because
Mm.
we felt like, when we were starting out, we felt like, if at this point in time we're starting an ad agency, it has to be different. And what we have to suggest to our clients as well in this, there's so much spent going, there are giants in the field and everything. Unless you're willing to bend some rules and
Mm.
break some rules in the process, you're just going to get lost in the crowd.
Mm.
So whenever we pitch, we say, you know what, okay guys, you're the client, this is the brief, but
Mm.
our core DNA is that we're going to cross question this, we're probably going to break some of these rules, and
Mm.
we're probably going to annoy you into thinking a little differently, because that's our claim to fame.
Makes sense.
So it's primarily like a creative and digital agency. We
Mm.
founded it in 2011, my partner and I.
Mm.
And so we're trying to uh, what we say is we're on a mission to make advertising suck less, because I'm an ad man, but even I hate ads. So
Okay.
at least it should not suck as much as it does right now.
Right.
And that's what we've been trying to do for the
Fascinating.
last good 10 years now.
Fascinating. So tell me, when you were building Ishtehari,
Yeah.
what were some of your key challenges and what were some of your learnings?
So key challenges, like I said, so I've worked as soon as I came out of college.
Hmm.
I worked for an agency for a year and a half. Or
Hmm.
वही होता है ना, when you go into the job world, you go like, yeah, my
Right.
boss is itna, he's a sellout, yeah. He
Hmm.
doesn't know anything.
Hmm.
We do all this crazy stuff, and then he just dumps it down and he makes these decisions that doesn't make ऐसे की तैसी,
Hmm.
we'll make our own stuff, we'll start our own thing, we'll start
Hmm.
our own business,
Hmm.
we'll give him competition. It's only when you've actually gone through the motions you realize, dude, those were some very smart moves that person did, and
Hmm.
it always looks a lot easier from the outside than it actually is, and
Absolutely.
that we learned the hard way
Hmm.
as we built it up. And then as the company grew, and we're going into our 10th year now,
Hmm.
it I suddenly in 5, 6, 7 years down the line,
Hmm.
attrition started to become a problem, because most of our team is now built on Gen Z and on millennials, and that I am a millennial myself,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
they're notorious for you know changing their career paths in the blink of
Correct.
an eye. So
Uh-huh.
keeping balancing the good culture that they stay on, don't
Hmm.
overbear them, give them challenges, that's become a key learning challenge point.
Hmm.
And then now I think in the last year or so, I think, and this is something that Ashutosh, I'm inspired by the way you've done it. I'm
Hmm.
beginning to see the merit of having a very well defined structure,
Hmm.
which is something that I actively, like, when we started shop, I was like, no, our whole agency is built on the fact that there are going to be no rules. We don't want
Correct.
rules, we don't want
Correct.
policies. that's
Hmm.
that's 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 so archaic. But now I'm beginning to see that structure is something that probably has a lot to do to expand and to reach our visions.
Hmm. It is very interesting you're saying this because I've often argued this. When people tell millennials have short attention spans, millennials change too many jobs, etc. I said, at different ages, forget millennials. When you're in your late 20s and early 30s, we are all the same. And
True
then
that.
the structure starts to come in, and then
Yeah.
the millennials will become millennials plus and evolved completely. So I'm
True
delighted you are
that.
saying this.
Yeah.
So, tell me, you've been in advertising for 10 years.
Hmm.
Over the last 10 years, how have you seen customer expectations change from an agency, especially in the world of digital?
Well, so we all grew up watching Mad Men, right? So
Mhm.
it was, oh, ek banda aayega, he'll just say something brilliant and blow everybody's mind.
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
concept, the creative reigns supreme, and so that's thrown out the window.
I
Been thrown out
agree.
the window in the last 10
I
years,
agree.
because now tech is a big part of it.
Hmm.
And everything that you do is measurable, and it's sometimes brands and agencies need to take a chance on something like our
Mhm.
agency. When we go in and present our ideas, it usually doesn't have a precedent, so I can't like give a very accurate ROI because I don't have a case study for it yet. But
Correct.
then that's the thing, that's the first time you do it, it's going to probably create a benchmark that you can then flaunt to others as well.
Hmm.
And secondly, the problem that I'm beginning to see, I wouldn't call it a problem, but the challenge that I'm beginning to see is now that advertising is evolving,
Hmm.
it's in this very strange place where it's in between a service industry and a product industry, right?
Hmm.
So in some parts, procurement will come in and they will say, what, you're a product, you're supposed to deliver these
Hmm.
goals, these results, and this should be your line item cost. And then on the other hand, they would want, oh, we want out of the box ideas. I don't have a manual, I don't have like a list of ideas that I can just take it out and give it to you for X amount of rupees.
Correct.
So it's that tension between how it's moving between products and between services that I think is accentuated in the last 10 years.
Hmm.
And the flip side of this is that more and more brands, at least in my sphere of things, as our agency gets deeply embedded into brands, they're beginning to look at us as internal stakeholders rather than just a hitman for hire. This is X marketing
Hmm.
problem, inko lao, fix it, and then take it out. To
Hmm.
the extent that sometimes we end up taking, I mean, जो ब्रांड या क्लाइंट टीम्स होती हैं वो मीटिंग्स में होती नहीं है, एजेंसी उनके बाप पे बात कर रही होती है दूसरे स्टेक होल्डर से इंटरनली कि भाई these guys are, look after our stuff, just speak to them. So that sort of transparency and honesty and trust that's come into the equation, I think is very welcome.
Very interesting. Whenever I speak to advertising people in India, I often ask them, there's that old line of David Ogilvy, only half of advertising works, but nobody knows which half.
Yeah.
But when you look at what technology is doing, with so many platforms, I find there's a lot of pressure on newspapers and television. What is happening in your country?
Yeah, so newspaper, I mean, it's just advertising is all about packaging, right?
Correct.
We will literally, I mean, I'm sure you heard of Indonesia, there's this rare coffee bean that's literally the excrement of a civet cat.
Correct.
And then, it's literally poop, but it's the world's most expensive coffee because of the way it's packaged, the way it's told, the story is woven around it, right? So similarly in advertising, it's just, you might call it a newspaper, you might call it a TV, but at the end of the day, it's content for your eyes and your ears and perhaps your mind, right? So I think calling it newspaper, just like in the rest of the world, in Pakistan, they're struggling, they're trying to reinvent, they're successful pushing into digital, and it's interesting. So my first job that I had, we used to have this little garden outside. There was a little tree in it back in 2009, and I was new, and I thought, I made a bet with a colleague, and I said, you know what, TV is going to be dead in 10 years, digital is coming and this, that. Or wo literally हमने ना वो जाके वो दरख्त पे scrape कर, we just carved it into the tree. So that was naive of me. TV isn't dead. TV is still big here. Absolutely. It's just that video content now, it's probably on demand. Probably it's not being served through cable or satellites. Probably it's coming through YouTube or something else. So all of these are just labels, Ashutosh, that the labels might change, but at the end, it's a competition to capture more of our eyes, more of our ears, and more of our brains. And that they will still reign supreme no matter how you look at it.
But as an advertising professional, when you are talking to your client about buying media across multiple platforms, the advertising dollar is competing for social media, for OTT, for apps like TikTok, etc. What are your thoughts on how are all these different platforms going to service the brands?
So once again, so the apps, or the platforms, they come and go, right? So maybe 8 years down the line, Facebook for all the rage. Now they're saying that millennials don't even like Gen Z doesn't even don't even use it, and then TikTok came. TikTok got banned in India. TikTok got banned in Pakistan. Got unbanned in Pakistan. Started it, and again, blah blah blah. Again, it's banned. So and now audio, which is something like podcasting, is all the rage in India. It's moving here as well. So it's these tools and that are relevant for a certain point of time, but they have herd mentality. So sometimes we lose the forest for the trees, right? So we got so focused on building an expertise for that tool that we forget that at the end of the day, the advertising dollar is chasing us after engagement and concept and storytelling. Now the storytelling, take it 100 years back, it was someone sitting under a tree and telling a story. You could have integrated a brand in that. Today it's going to be on TikTok, on any of these mediums, and you have to integrate it into that. So it's just a tool. I'm not too worried about it. To be honest, I don't personally, I don't look after a lot of the media spend. So we try to position ourselves as the content agency, not necessarily optimizing for each and every dollar spent into media. So I could be a little biased there.
Understand. So you're more the creative person.
I like to think so.
Wonderful. So again, we just spoke a little bit about millennials. Again, here what I'm finding from a lot of young people is that in terms of seeking a career as an advertising professional, I'm finding that the millennials and the Gen Zs are not necessarily taking it up because there are so many other options coming. What is happening in your part of the world?
Yeah, that's true. It's actually a downward pressure that we feel overall in the in the entire, let's say, demographic,
Mm-hmm.
about not going through traditional career choices. So
Mm-hmm.
whether it's advertising, whether it's something now that I'll grow up to be a YouTuber. I'll
Mm-hmm.
grow up to be a TikTok star. I'll
Mm-hmm.
be the world's most greatest expert on this particular niche. I'll be
Correct.
the king and the queen of shoelaces. Nobody will know
Mm-hmm.
better than me, and I will
Mm-hmm.
monetize that. So I think it's overall a downward pressure on this, and millennials once again. So I somehow can understand it because I'm at the tail end of the millennial thing, but
Yeah.
more and more so with Gen Z as well. They're not gonna. Yeah, I feel like they are much more fluid and they're willing to take those risks,
Mm-hmm.
which is why they have that sort of entrepreneurial mindset. And the joke around the room is that there are there are more entrepreneurs now than there are customers. So
Correct.
more people are looking to have their own thing because that has a badge value attached to it. I can understand that.
Huh.
Then actually go through traditional career paths, even in advertising, are still regimented. You have to do
Mm.
this, you have to take it through the grind, rise through the ranks, and then become something.
Mm.
They're like, oh, nothing doing, don't have time for that. Hey, how about I do like a kick-ass something right now, and then I
Mm.
can shortcut that entire thing, which
Mm.
is nice. I mean, I like it.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So I'm going to move to the next segment of our conversation, which is some
Yeah,
questions for you personally.
yeah.
My first question is that for someone who is dealing in brands and for someone who is dealing with so many clients, what are some of the core values you believe in?
Okay, so the first value, and this will sound a little cliche, is
Mm-hmm.
honesty.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not honesty for some altruistic sense. It's just that
Mm-hmm.
I am personally very bad as a liar.
Okay.
I shouldn't be in advertising,
Okay.
but
Okay.
honesty specifically in failure, because everything we do is an experiment in life, and some of them work, some of them don't. We
Mm-hmm.
have to make those choices, and we have to be transparent about learning them. And this is something that I often get heat for as well. Advertising about packaging, just say okay, this sort of mistake happened, but whatever, it's okay. So
Mm-hmm.
no, you have to learn, like you said, it's about your book as well. I haven't had a chance to see it, but you have to be honest in your failures so that you can move ahead. And
Correct.
then connected to that is that you need to have that sort of drive to do experimentation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's primarily because there is so much going out there in the world that you will get bored very easily. So you'll by the time you master something, you're already bored of it, and especially true
Mm-hmm.
for Gen Z. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to trust your boredom. So when you get bored about something, try to go up, try to go sideways, try to think laterally, and just go out and do something else instead. So
Mm-hmm.
this twin drive of experimentation and then honesty in adapting to the failures is
Mm-hmm.
something that at least I personally believe
Fantastic.
in.
Fantastic. My next question, Umair, is on success.
Yeah.
And I know success, meaning of success changes as we go through life. But at 10 years of, Ishtehari, as you look
Hmm.
back and as you look at what you're going to achieve in the future,
Yeah.
what does success mean to Umair today?
At this stage, and wha- given your massive perspective, I
Hmm.
think this might look a little naive.
No,
But
not at
at this
all.
stage, what I'm trying to do is I am trying to detach myself from my business. It should operate. Once again, my entrepreneurial
Hmm.
thing goes up. So the only way I can give more time to my first priority, which is my family, my son, my wife, is when I can. The problem with entrepreneurs, as you've noticed, is that even when we're sleeping, we're thinking, oh, we could do this way, we could do it that way.
Yeah.
So how I need to be able to shut off that part of my brain
Hmm.
and be able to inject enough structure that I I should be able to, if I want to pursue something, I should be able to do that. But my business should not rely on me to do any particular role, whether
Okay.
it's leadership, whether it's inspiration, whether it's something else. There should be a mechanism in place that it should work almost by itself.
Hmm.
Only when it should be an opt-in process for me, not necessarily a must-do.
Amazing. You know, that is what you've just said is what impresses me the most about millennials. When I was 32, 33, 34, my objective was how soon will I be a millionaire? When will I get, a three-star car in front of my house,
Yeah.
right? And, you know, how big a job will I have? But every time I speak to someone who was a millennial, They're talking about the world, they're talking about family, they're talking about children. I mean, that's so incredible. Thank you. And I hope these parameters stay exactly the same 20 years from now as well for you, you know.
No,
So,
as a matter of fact, I hope they change. I mean, they're
okay,
my challenge for right now. Maybe 10
okay,
years, 20 years, I'm like, no, philanthropy should be the thing. I should give back to the world. अभी
okay,
तो मेरा बहुत perspective छोटा है.
okay, man, one acha. So now tell me, as a follow-up question to success,
Yeah.
my next question is who or what inspires you?
So, so I'll, at the risk of sounding on brand and
Mhm,
towing one thing, it's
mhm,
it's it's these two things. To be honest, it's one is travel, because that allows me to suspend all the expectations that I have from
mhm.
my environment. When I go somewhere else, the currency is different, the people are different, they
Yeah,
react in different ways. So that opens up the horizons for me, and that inspires me to do, to do more things.
mhm,
And the other is something that's much more close in hand, which is, once again, like I said, my child is at this age whereby, in the last 2 3 years, he's asked me such ridiculous questions like, why is
mhm,
milk white, why
mhm,
is water wet?
mhm.
These sort of things, really, because kids have that imagination and they
Correct.
think anything is possible. They hear
Yeah.
me, like I do the podcast with Suvir as well, that
Mhm,
India Pakistan
mhm,
podcast,
mhm,
right? So he sees me recording, he's like, hey, can we have our own podcast? I'm like, yeah,
mhm,
sure. And then
mhm.
he's like, oh, okay, I'll make the logo like this. He's only 6. I'll make the logo
Amazing.
like this. This will be our title. This will be what we'll do.
Amazing.
So this genuine curiosity that someone very small has
Mhm.
really inspires me, to be honest. And then
Fabulous.
couple that with the external world, it completes the equation for me.
Fantastic. Fantastic. This is the first time I've heard an answer of this kind to who or what inspires you. Thank you. My next question to you, Umair, is on failure. And I've often said parents in South Asia or parents in Asia don't teach children it's okay to fail.
Yeah.
I was always told first how line में first आना है class में line के सबसे आगे होना चाहिए etc etc. And I've
Hmm.
seen that manifests itself in our behavior patterns, which
Hmm.
is why in Delhi at a traffic light instead of 3 cars you'll have 9 cars because everyone
Hmm.
wants to be the first off the block. If
Yeah.
an aircraft full of Indians lands at an airport, the guy in
Hmm.
the last row wants to get out first because in
Yeah.
his mind he has to be out first.
Hmm.
Yet we fail all the time. So my question to you is what have been some of your learnings from some of your mistakes?
You know, it's interesting how you're exploring failure. You're right. It's baked into our culture.
Hmm.
Even though my parents were the sort that said first out, मैं आता ही नहीं था, तो
Ah,
they had very low
okay.
expectations.
Okay. Okay.
But there is this, couple it in with this very this jargon, which is FOMO, right? Fear of missing out,
Mm-hmm.
and then inject a little bit of entrepreneurship. For example, today's supposed to be a day off. It's a gazetted holiday in Pakistan today. It's a resolution day. Everybody's off. My wife said, we'll have fun, this, that, blah, 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 all of that. But here I am because I don't want to miss this opportunity. And after that, I'll be working on something else. So yes, it just feels like there's this constant pressure. If I go into the specifics at this stage that I am right now, I think my biggest failure would be that when I started my business, I sort of didn't put much attention into building those structures. So today my business is still very much reliant on me to do a certain number of things. And I felt like if I would have had a head start and then I wouldn't have been so bullish about it, you know what, break all the rules, nothing, we'll do it our way, we'll coast through it. Now that's coming and biting me in the butt. Because my business still needs me in the day to day, and I should have had that structure minded sort of approach since the beginning. That's been my mistake, and I'm honest about it. Hopefully it'll be cleared out in the next 5-10 years.
Wonderful. So my last question to you now, Umair, which is
Yeah.
that, and this is for the thousands of people who will listen to our conversation,
Yeah.
what would your advice be to a young individual who's starting off on her or his journey as an entrepreneur?
My advice would be at this stage to trust their gut,
Mm-hmm.
and so entrepreneurs, I can tell from just from my own personal experience, we feel like we're the shit, right? So it's us that the magic is in. We will bring everything together. We have the ideas, we have the drive, we have the determination. But at this point, the people, when they're starting out, they don't realize the importance of of building a set of like-minded people, that the importance of talent, which now I'm beginning to realize more and more that the talent needs to be there. And this is something that is missing from most entrepreneurs' equations in the beginning, because in the beginning you're literally everybody. When we started out, it was the same. We had a business card that didn't have a designation on it, because जब हमें accountant बनना था, मैं उमैर the accountant था. जब मैं delivery boy था, तो उमैर the delivery boy था. जब CEO था, तो उमैर the CEO था. So from the outset, they should start to think of entrepreneurship as a set of people rather than anything else, rather than a money making machine, and eventually that's going to pay dividends.
Fantastic. Umair, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure speaking to you. I've loved every bit of our discussion, some amazing points, and I'm amazed at how much you keep going back to the time you want to spend with your son and your family.
Absolutely.
That's
It's a big
absolutely
pain
so
point
amazing.
for me.
Fantastic. Thank you again.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure on your show, Ishtehari.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.